Let's see. I think we have fixed our video issue here, or camera issue. If you can believe it, I actually fired up the stream without the camera. But such is life. These things happen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, uh, if you're watching this at any point in time, hope you're having a blessed day. Hope all is going well for you. I'm still holding my mic in my hand because the stand is broken, and yeah, we'll sort that out at a later point in time. Nonetheless, all is well. It is a beautiful day to hop online, and just chit chat, man. Run the stream and talk about some of the interesting things that are happening around the world today. One thing is for sure, we cannot ignore it anymore, is that the world is changing. Actually, you know what? Give me a second here. Let me make one quick correction. Stand by. All right. All right, we are back. That is much better. Yes, yes, yes. Listen, like I was saying, the world is evolving, right? Some things are changing very fast. Back in the days, as things happened, I think it was after World War II, we came to this point where there was something called the Bretton Woods moment, if you will. All right, this is when you had a bunch of deviants, okay, gathered themselves somewhere in Europe and distributed Africa amongst themselves. This was the New World Order. After, America proved its dominance as the strongest military, essentially these people got to set the rules and run the world how they saw fit, or in a way that favored them. And that was true up until recent times. Since that time, America's power has always been at the top there. I mean, when you have $1 trillion budgets going into the military, I mean, the whole world can, just sits around and is looking at you like, well, we better not mess with this guy because he's going to eliminate us before we can even say anything or do anything. And sometimes I think that fear, right, or structured fear is the best deterrent. What I mean by that is, if you create this concept or image that should be feared, that stops other people from testing you, and that allows you to get away with a lot. And or at the very least, it serves as a protective layer, right? Because no one wants to mess with you, because based on what you say your military spending is, no one wants to find out what that looks like. Unless if you are China and you decided, well, we're going to see what it looks like if we maximize our military spending as well, but doing it in an efficient way. The result of that is what we see today, where China has a military which, to be frank, matches what the US military can be or surpasses it. And they're doing it in a much more efficient manner. There's, publications out there that outline the pace at which China is able to build ships. I cannot tell you that any ship is really being built in America this day. So, how do you fight such a person? What also comes with this hegemonic mindset or view, right, that the West has always had is a certain level of confidence, arrogance. I don't want to call it arrogance, but when your confidence is overextended without proving the work continuously, at some point in time, You will have to prove that work. And I think that the chicken is coming, you know, to roost at this point. The chickens are coming home to roost at this point because the US is having to prove all these things that they have been claiming that they are biggest economy, most technologically advanced, strongest military. All of that is undergoing serious stress test as we speak right now. But sometimes you see that these things put the US in a place where uh, some people would come out with ridiculous statements. So we're going to, just take a look at some of these things that are happening in this realm. And then we're going to finish up this stream by checking in with our FBA brothers, man, because these guys are the main character. And they say that we cannot go without talking about them. So I don't want to break the rules, man, because they are the blueprints. And if we don't talk about them, who knows? I might drop dead just by breathing common air tomorrow. So let's roll into this thing here. Look at this. There is media backlash in China after a US think tank hails a 46% drop in Chinese student visas. Right, so there's a US think tank. I don't know who this US think tank is, but they're essentially saying that, hey, it's a good thing that Chinese students are not getting visas as they used to previously. As you guys know, there's the F1 visa, there's the H1B visas, right? And right now, I know that the Indians are catching a heap of criticism, which, to be fair with you guys, I do think that it is important for the US to look out for its own people first before outsourcing work to other people. But that is in the case of work. In this case, we're talking about student visas, right? Having students come over to the US to study, etc., etc. So it says the report stating the US could benefit from fewer Chinese and Indian students draw criticisms over claims of politicizing education, right? Um, Essentially, one of the things that they are worried about here is that these Chinese students coming over to the US will pose a national security threat, which is national security threat is something that um, they really like to throw around with no evidence. It's absolutely insane. So it says the report said the decline, if sustained, could greatly benefit American students and national security. How will it benefit American students? I think if American students are hitting the same scores, putting in the same effort in their studies, then they should get all the opportunities. And of course, they should be prioritized. I'll say that much. But right now, you know, America is not being prioritized. And we have to ask leadership, what is this about? Because you could blame the foreigners, but the reality is the foreigners did not let themselves in. They were let in by the administration. And to be honest with you, sometimes, maybe we also need to look inward and understand why some things are the way they are. Anyway, this report argued that having fewer Chinese students in the United States could cut risk linked to technology transfer and espionage. Espionage is always gonna happen. I don't think that is directly something um, that is based from students, but um, when I want to focus in on this technology transfer thing, because you have people in the West who believe that technology transfer is something that they have an upper hand when it comes to going up against China. And I bet they differ in this situation. Yes, there are some areas where the US is still ahead, but it seems to me that by the time we look into the next 5 years, China is probably going to be running everyone over. Let me share with you some more information on this situation, right? So this is from ITIF, Information Technology and Innovation Foundation. This is a US publication. Okay, I'm just start by clarifying that this is a U.S. publication located in Washington D.C. Okay, to be more specific. Now they say here China, how China is outperforming the United States in critical technologies. China has emerged as the leading global power in the creation of emerging technologies, dramatically outperforming the United States in the vast majority of critical technological fields. A key indicator of this is that China is dominating the United States when it comes to scientific publications. I would also tell you, you can also look at another indicator of this is also just the outcomes that you see in China. I've been there myself, and the level of productivity that I witness in China is unmatched. I think if the West is doing what they're doing right now, and they're expecting that they will ever catch up with China at some point, they have another thing coming for them. So, here are some areas that have been outlined where China is outpacing the US, and is by a lot in many of these places. For example, if you look at unique AUKUS technologies, advanced materials. I mean, when it comes to advanced materials, uh, I mean, China has been spending the past how many years securing all these um, minerals from Africa and refining them over there, especially things like rare earths, right? Heck, at this point in time, the US is depending on China for rare earths to build things that are for their own national defense. That is just shocking to me. That is just shocking to me. But again, you will have people that still do not understand what is happening in the world, and they will go around saying ridiculous things like they're worried about technology transfer from the US to China. Let's see, in what area are we talking about? Because when it comes to defense, space, robotics, and transport, China is dominating. Energy and environment, China is dominating. Sensing, timing, and navigation, China is dominating. Advanced ICT, dominating. Biotechnology, China is dominating. Quantum, AI technologies, hydrogen and and ammonia for power, nanoscale materials and manufacturing, high specification machining process, right? Supercapacitors, advanced aircraft engines, coatings, autonomous underwater vehicles, electric batteries, hypersonic detection and tracking. China is still dominating. This is where the US is still ahead. Vaccines and medical countermeasures. We know that healthcare is one of those extremely predatory sectors in the United States, because even though they say that they're this advanced in medication, somehow our medical system is still one of the worst in the modern world. It's insane. One of the most expensive. Let me not say the worst, because the equipment is there, the capability is there, but capitalism is interfering with the performance of the people in the field. Quantum computing, the US is ahead there. Small satellites, atomic clocks, nuclear medicine and radiotherapy, natural language processing, which I think that's AI stuff there. And you see, it's really close. It's really close. If you look at small satellites, really close. So I would say over the next 5 years, given that China just caught up, brought themselves to this place that they are right now over the past 10 to 20 years, then for the next 10 years, I don't see how the US is going to keep the pace ahead, even with genetic engineering. So I find this to be very, very interesting. But these are the things and these are the factors that I'm looking at when I'm considering what is going on around the world and where I think it makes sense to be aligning myself into the future. I think it is one of those things that whether we want to or not, eventually this will start affecting us. Now, one of the things that I would also say is, as when we talk about things that are changing around the world right now, right? We know for sure that Trump responded to some of these things by putting tariffs on Chinese vehicles. They tried to do whatever that they could to stop the trade from happening, to stop China from advancing. You hear it on the news all the time. China is a threat. We need to do what we need to do to stop them. You cannot stop these people. They're already far gone. Then another strategy that they used was to now pivot to the countries that are engaged with China and started slamming these countries with tariffs. As we know right now, almost, I think, pretty much the whole world, or all of Africa specifically, because this is really my point of interest, almost all of Africa is facing heavy tariffs from Trump. You see, but China responded to that, and we'll come back to that in a little bit here. But just to refresh everyone's memory on this situation. So you see, Trump's tariffs have gotten AGOA's duty-free promise model shows. This AGOA is African Growth and Opportunity Act, which was introduced in 2000 as the cornerstone of the U.S. development-oriented trade policy towards the sub-Saharan Africa. It was designed to grant eligible countries duty-free access to the U.S. market. To be honest with you, given some of the... Okay, I'll put it this way. When the West comes to do business with Africa, most of the time it is predatory deals that they engaged in. So most of the time they engage, these people do everything, right? From taking out your leaders to starting wars while they extract your minerals and so on and so forth. They just don't want to do fair business. Anyway, so in February 2026, President Donald Trump signed a 1-year extension after the program lapsed in 2025. Yet, the program's core benefit is already been effectively eliminated. Since April of 2025, the US has imposed additional bilateral reciprocal tariffs ranging lately from 10% to 30% on countries eligible for AGOA terms. Critically, AGOA only waives the standard tariffs rate the US applies to all World Trade Organization members. Right. So you slam everyone with tariffs here. And I think that this comes back to this mindset of viewing yourself as the main character, the dominant force across the globe. But you're not paying attention and realizing that things are shifting. So what happened here? You put tariffs on these people. It's not guaranteed that these people are going to bend the knee. Yes, some of them bend the knee, but now they have an alternative. They have options that they can try to tap into. So what happens? China sees that the US does this move, and they go and they set up essentially their own AGOA, right? Tariff-free imports to China. And you see that China-Africa trade hits record high as zero tariff policy boosts African exports. Bilateral trade reaches 197 billion in the first half of 2026, with expanded market access driving growth in agricultural and industrial goods. Look, whether it is the best or not, the fact of the matter is you're looking at a market and a trade that was not happening before. And this is beneficial to these African nations in one way or another. So maybe eventually, right, America goes back and looks at it and goes, well, we tariffed the crap out of these people, but then they just shifted and started working with China. Maybe we can go back to them and see if we can try to say, okay, no more tariffs, you guys can trade with us. But there is no guarantee that this is going to come back your way. This is what I mean by the world is definitely changing. And as much as these people want to ignore BRICS, BRICS is playing a major role in these economic shifts. That is China, Russia, India. I don't really know much about India's role in this situation, because India is sometimes looking like a two-faced agent, but South Africa is also part of this economic bloc as well. Now, you can also add Russia to the mix. You have Russia agricultural exports to Africa rising by 35% in value in the first half of 2025. So shipments to African markets increase by 40% in volume as demand grows across the continent. Look, this is an interesting one. I think Africa should be focused on pushing its own agriculture as much as possible. But you know what? Sometimes you cannot grow everything. So it is best to engage with people that are able to uh, provide you certain things in exchange for whatever it might be. When I look at this, yes, Russia is providing this, is importing or exporting their agriculture to these African countries. But usually on this sort of situations, there's always another side of the trade, right? What are these African countries getting in benefit with Russia? I have not looked into this, but this is a market that is viable for Russia after the US had sanctioned the crap out of Russia, expecting to squeeze their economy to death, right? Again, I'm going back to that mindset of hegemony and always trying to dominate everyone. Russia said, well, we're not going to deal with you. We're going to try to establish a new market. And here we go. Africa is now engaging in trade in a different direction than with the US. It's very interesting. There is no guarantee, okay, that the US is still going to be really a force that some countries will look at as a necessity to trade with in the future from their current behaviors. So that is very interesting set of decisions that these people are making. But what we are seeing is that after all the sanctions, we see that Russia did not fall. They're still moving on and they're still trading with others. In fact, they've strengthened their ties with other people like China, Iran, right? When it comes to Iran as well, right, you have the military might being put to the test right now. And if you have the biggest military budget on earth, I don't think that there should be any competition with you and a military force that is not even ranked in the top three. So this is very interesting, right? This is history that is happening in our own lifetime, and we need to look at it and recognize it for what it is. Now, I played this video yesterday, but maybe I'll just play a little bit more of it here. But in this situation, we see that when it comes to the automotive market, we see Ford CEO has been driving a Chinese EV car for the past however long, trying to learn from them. And he's also finding out from other consultants that are supposed to work with him that they are at least 25 years behind China. And I think that it is something that is across all of these various fields that we're talking about. I think that the West, let's not talk about Europe, the West is far behind in all of these areas. If you look at Africa, yeah, Africa is behind as well, but Africa has never been a competitor. Africa has never been a hegemon. But Africa is definitely rising, benefiting from these changes that are happening around the world, because as you can see, Africa has been engaged differently than before. That's for sure. Right. So I think, uh, sometimes, right, when people see themselves as main character, you really have to let them push themselves to the maximum, right? There's and now I'm not going to say that. You really have to just let them push themselves to the maximum so that they can learn the lesson. And once that lesson is learned, then you can hope that from there, people can take the necessary steps, right, to come back to where they need to be. Because the reality of the matter is, when I went to China, and I say this quite a bit, when I left, I felt disappointed because I know that the US is not behind in all of these areas because we're not capable or that we don't have the ability. We have everything that we need to stay ahead, to be great again, right? As the president himself said, to make America great again. To say you want to make America great again is also to acknowledge that you realize that America is no longer the greatest. Because you cannot make the greatest great again. And I would say greatest in the sense that you were the most technologically advanced, right? You were the most advanced in all these areas that we're looking at here, where China is now dominating you. But we can never reach this greatness again if we keep playing this ridiculous game of trying to play the hegemon and the most dominant force. I think now is the time for collaboration. Now is the time for collaboration versus the strategy that is clearly not working, as the whole world is seeing right now. Now, before I wrap up this stream here, okay, we're going to talk about some other main characters, the FBAs. Other main characters that, you know, they say they are the blueprints, right? I'm saying FBAs here because I don't think that is all Black Americans. But we have this gentleman here, the Drazi Show. And again, this guy and people like Nana and Sheku from China, these are some of the guys that really inspired me to discuss this topic. I wanted to do my channel, and the topic was just going to be geopolitics and things like that. That's my arena. That's where I like to flow, right? But at the same time, right, I cannot say that as an African, I've not sat around and watched these guys disrespect everyone forever. And these guys go way harder than I do. I'm just trying to just throw in my 2 cents, man, to push back against these people. But we're going to react to a video from the Drazi Show here, and then, you know, I'll go ahead and wrap up the stream. So, and I spoke about this a little bit in a stream yesterday. I don't know if it was the stream I did on TikTok or the one I did here. But this FBA thing seems like a whole grift for these guys to enrich themselves, write books, right, create hats, merch, all that kind of stuff. So no further ado, let's run this.
Ones I see online are always the angry ones. Even the intelligent ones, they always lose a sense of themselves. You see them talking all smart, you know, calculated, well composed, and then the second they want to attack your Africanness, their eyes go wide and their venomous rage surfaces. Listen here, you tether. They're very easy to read. Very easy to read. Very, very easy to study.
Welcome to the Drazi Show.
And then when you get those of them who are trying to say, brothers and sisters, we need to do better, they just make fun of them. And I'm black, yo, and I'm black, yo, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, yo.
I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all. Black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, cause I'm black.
They've made fun of that type all throughout Black American cinema. My milk of magnesia.
Oh my God, do my eyes not deceive me, or am I looking at the goddess Isis herself? Can you do me a favor, my brown skin angel? Can you tap that white girl for me? My milk of magnesia. Oh.
Throw a dashiki on them, throw an West African hat on them, and make fun of them in Black cinema. And that's all a psychological operation.
All right, does anybody know what the name of this place is?
That's Africa. I know that.
My daddy says that makes it a place where all people originated from. That means everybody's really from Africa. Everybody. All y'all.
I'm from Africa. I'm from Crenshaw Mafia.
Like, now you're from Africa.
I'm from Africa. You from Africa. You African booty scratcher.
Listen, that scene right there, I think that scene is one of the most damaging scenes that I have ever seen on TV. It's insane. I didn't even remember what movie this is from. I remember I saw that clip a long time ago. But that was serious damage. And that madness is still what carries on to today. When they called me African Booty Scratcher when I came to high school in the US, I wonder, where did this come from? You're looking at it right there. Anyway, let's play on.
And now today, the spawn of that mentality is Mr. Tariq Nasheed. You know, there's some people argue, they say, hold on, if God was all-knowing, how could he not have seen Lucifer coming? Then some people say it's because he was part of the plot. He needed to exist to be thrown out of the heavens. Tariq Nasheed needed to exist for the FBA to be born.
And that is facts right there. He really needed to exist for the FBA to be born. But you know, I think FBA, to an extent, I think this FBA thing is also a theft of the initial concept, right? Because you had, of course, they will tell you about the free Black American movement that was happening at some point in time, but there is also ADOS, American Descendant of Slaves. The same radicalism runs through these people. It's spectacular to watch, and the most insane thing. But let's carry on.
He did not trademark, copyright, and brand the FBA brand. They wouldn't exist. And I tell people that he's trademarked it, he's copywritten it, and he's branded it. They don't believe me. So it says here.
Yes, he did. He sure did trademark it. I saw this before, and I spoke about it on my live stream on TikTok.
Application filed on January the 3rd, 2023, serial number 977399185, which proceeded to registration, lists the attorney record as a Mexican woman's name. I don't want to mention her name, but the attorney that filed the application for Mr. Tariq Nasheed wasn't even a Black lawyer. The irony. So many amazing Black lawyers in America. He chose someone who has a name that sounds like a South American. Those of you out there, Google.
I wonder why he did that. Was there not an FBA lawyer that he could have spent his dollars with to trademark FBA? I mean, the guy is betraying y'all from the jump. What happened? You guys have so much spending dollars, ready to boycott anything that breathes. At the first opportunity, Mr. Tariq, you give the money to somebody that is not of your FBA lineage. This is interesting.
Her yourself. It's a Latin American woman. He filed it in California. Can you believe that? Your movement, your identity, your lineage is a trademarked brand. How much pride can you have in yourself as a person when you are following someone who's not even transparent with you? He isn't even a good leader. He lies to you. He puts things in the dark. He hides things in the dark. But you follow blindly because he keeps you in the dark. When I tell you these FBAs are dumb, I mean these FBAs are dumb, capital D, dumb. They can't even spell dumb. FBAs in the comments, spell dumb for me, please. Based on public available US trademark knowledge and filings, Tariq Nasheed is listed as the applicant/owner for multiple trademark applications relating to foundational Black Americans, aka.
But listen, he is not the leader of FBA, he will tell you. He's not the leader of FBA. This is like someone walking you all the way to a lion's den, okay? He's marching at the forefront. He's like, we are going to crush this lion. Then he opens the gate to the den, right? And he steps to the side and he's like, yeah, go ahead, go in. And you guys are just running in. At what point do you stop and ask your leader? Because that's what he is. You guys will say he's not your leader. Or let's say the guy who held your hand up to this point. At what point do you stop and ask him, hey, are you going to hold our hand all the way to the lion? But no, he put that battery in your back and you guys are just fucking kicking with it. Carry on.
FBA. She doesn't just own the foundational Black American trademark. He owns several applications relating to it. Which means this grifter, this hustler, let's see what they say he applied for in terms of like what his application covers. It covers online retail services, books, clothing, electronics, flags, because he knew you people were going to buy flags. He just knew it. So he said, anything you buy, I want money on that. To file his application to trademark FBA, he went to a Latin American white lady. No Black lawyers out there? Or maybe they might have gone, I ain't trademarking that. You crazy? I ain't gonna get that smudge on my name. He has trademarked your whole identity, your whole culture, your whole lineage, your whole existence for profit. for profit. Now, you know what? It got me.
And I'll point out, as you guys buy these flags and all this other merch, right, to represent your lineage, listen, this man is taking this money and blowing it right now in Japan. Recently, he was doing a stream where he was in Japan, right? Meanwhile, you guys are boycotting Asians. You can't make this shit up.
Thinking, it seems to be a current trend. Not current, actually, you know what? Let me give them more credit. They've been doing this for a long time. This ain't no current trend. They've been doing this for a long time. Let's give these FBAs and these anti-African Black Americans, let's give them more credit because they deserve it. These people have been known since time immemorial to follow madmen, to follow raccoons. So let's go. You got the Nation of Yahweh, spearheaded by a nutcase called Yahweh Ben Yahweh. That's the gentleman there, ladies and gentlemen. This man had a big congregation. He had so many temples across Miami.
Yahweh Ben Yahweh stopped in late this afternoon to see what he just paid $2 million for. The Sun City Hotel is now one of 5 the Yahweh's own in Dade, part of a $20 million property portfolio. Where does the money come from?
Well, the money comes from those who believe in Yahweh, the followers of Yahweh, the disciples of Yahweh.
Then you had the Nuwaubian nation, led by Malachi Z. York, who was a pedo. But he made so much money off his large following that the man was building pyramids and all kinds of stuff on big acres of land where he could be confined within his walls, thinking that he was untouchable by the US government while he was raping people's children.
The group's leader is identified in literature as Malachi Zodok York, the Supreme Grand Master. He is described as a charismatic speaker and apparently a prolific writer, producing monthly newsletters and dozens of books.
He says that he is from the 8th planet in the 19th galaxy.
This is insane, man. A lot of these people have the same traits. They have this charisma about them, and they have this extreme confidence in stupidity, which they push upon the people. It's like love bombing someone. It's what they do. And then people just follow them blindly. Really, if you look at it, this is an interesting phenomenon. And I think that this situation aligns with what is happening with the MAGA freaking crew, man. With MAGA, man, Trump cannot do anything wrong. He cannot do anything wrong. And I think it's the same thing that you're looking at here.
Galaxy of Eliwan, a universe far outside of this one. Does it make sense to you?
That's in the book. If he wrote it, then yeah. We're from Orion. Dr. York is from Risk. He's from Orion. What's the deal?
Now, my question is, when you FBAs wake up tomorrow, whether tomorrow be 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, and you realize that you followed a scamming grifter, what will you say about yourselves then?
They have to double down. They have to double down because they cannot tell themselves that they were wrong. You know, sometimes the pride, man, the ego is a tough thing because you're like, it's like, what did they call that thing again? Sunk cost fallacy, right? You see that this is absolute bullshit, but you know, you're like, hey, maybe if I dig a bit deeper, I can really turn the corner. And maybe I was right. But who knows?
What will you say about yourselves? Or will you do like you've done in all your other patterns that I've shown you? Will you just try and blend into society and act as if you never had these sentiments, never had these views, never followed that ethos? How will you go about it? I would really love to know.
The vast majority of cults are started by an individual who's extremely charismatic, who's very confident, very commanding, in some cases very demanding, expects an awful lot of the followers.
Guys, I want to hear your thoughts.
That sounds
Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Press the notification button to be updated for everything that I post in the future.
Hey, man, that is the Drazzy Show. Absolutely incredible from the brother. I really love what he's doing. I really love what people like Nana are doing as well. Listen, I might not agree with everything that even some of their takes that they might put out there. I might not agree with all of it, but the general concept of just giving pushback to these cult leaders, I think is absolutely necessary, because some of this insanity online can translate to real life, and then that becomes extremely problematic. And I don't think we want to get to that point. Just trying to check my sound here real quick, guys. Yeah, there is sound. There is sound. All right. Well, that is it for this stream, right? We touch on some things that are changing around the world. Give me your thoughts. What do you think? Where do you see the West going over the next 10 years in comparison to places like China? Maybe Iran right now, where there is some conflict there. I think that this conflict is going to have to come to an end. But when it does come to an end, how will that look like? Will it be coming to an end with the US having control over this region as they set out to do? What if they don't have control over this region? What does that look like? We know that right now they've been trying to dismantle this country for the longest of times, and it's not going as planned. We've seen chaos that they've caused in Libya, Somalia, right? Lebanon, Palestine. It goes on and on. But looks like he hadn't stepped on the, he hadn't met your match, is what it's seeming like. And then, of course, you have our FBA people here, whom we cannot forget about, because they will never, stop reminding us that they are the blueprints. These people say they are just trying to delineate and respect their lineage. But somehow, they spend more time talking about Africans than actually executing on their own plans. That's a very interesting strategy. Well, I have nothing else to say, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for checking out the stream out. I gotta go chop up this video and do some other things with it. Until next time, Brazen out.